And a good afternoon to you wherever you may be. Welcome to the final race before the summer break. The Formula One Belgian Grand Prix 2023. F1 will go on hiatus for a month after this, but before that happens, we hope to put on one last show for you. We are live from Belgium on a 19-turn track, 7 kilometers, 4.3 miles. And there is the map. In a matter of moments, we will take you to the starting grid. And just as I say that, here it is. It's going to be Charles Leclerc in first for Ferrari, starting with Lance Stroll, who is in second for Aston Martin. Followed by Lewis Hamilton in third, Sergio Perez in fourth, Verstappen with Alonso, Carlos Sainz with George Russell, Esteban Ocon with Pierre Gasly, the two teammates, Nico Hulkenberg with Kevin Magnussen, also teammates, Albon and Sargent, teammates again, Lando Norris with Yuki Tsunoda, Oscar Piastri with Zhou Guanyu, and finally Valtteri Bottas with Nick de Vries. The start of the race coming up in a matter of moments, live on the network. And it is lights out and away we go. The Belgian Grand Prix 2023 has begun. Leclerc in pole, goes off in the grass. He takes the lead. He's breaking away from the pack. Lance Stroll is in second. Hamilton and Sergio Perez battling for third. Hamilton down in fourth. Max Verstappen in fifth. Fernando Alonso in sixth. Carlos Sainz in seventh. Pierre Gasly with Esteban Ocon eighth and ninth. The teammates, and George Russell in 10th. That's it for the points. As we see Lance Stroll going across the straightaway, following behind Charles Leclerc. He's in second. The Aston Martin driver separated by his teammate Alonso by 3 drivers. Perez, you see there following him. It's Verstappen and Hamilton still going head-to-head. Two of the best drivers of their generation. Closed off now into a single file line, straight line. And there you see Max Verstappen. And Matilda Wallace will not be joining us today. It is just me as we cover the final race before the 2023 Formula One summer break. And I apologize for the advertising error I made during the Hungarian Grand Prix. I said this would be the Dutch Grand Prix, but it's actually the Belgian Grand Prix. I got them mixed up. But we are in Belgium, ladies and gentlemen. Sergio Perez ahead of Max Verstappen. I'm getting a bit confused here. And there you see Leclerc swerving through the course. Stroll still in second. Perez and Verstappen together quite close. And once again, we go to the first-person view, which can be quite loud. I hope you can hear me. It's very loud in my headphones, but it is what it is. Perez intensely following Stroll. Looked like he was going to try and make a move by moving to the side there, but he's denied the chance, at least for now. And continuing here, they will come close to the finish line, the start-finish line. Max Verstappen following close behind. It's Hamilton in 5th, Alonso in 6th, Sainz in 7th, Gasly and Ocon in 8th and 9th. They're still together, and George Russell in 10th. If my mic is a bit loud, I apologize, but this race is a bit loud as well. This race is very loud. As they go into lap 2 of 11. It is Lance Stroll still in second, Sergio Perez following him, Verstappen following his teammate, but the gap has gotten a bit wider, as well as the gap between Verstappen and Hamilton. They were close together not long ago. As we go to the first-person view on Verstappen, he's got Perez in his sights, but he just can't catch up. There goes Charles Leclerc for a moment. The winner of the 2023 Monaco Grand Prix, and that's quite an accomplishment because he himself is from Monaco. There is Lewis Hamilton. He's got Alonso behind him, Sainz behind Alonso, and Leclerc separated from Sainz by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 drivers. Interesting separation between the Ferrari engines. One in the lead, one close behind, but still, one not close behind, but considerably behind, I should say. But at least they're still in the points. Who else? Hulkenberg and Magnussen, the two Haas drivers, are together, 11th and 12th. Alexander Albon separated from Logan Sargent, the two Williams. by Lando Norris, and Logan Sargent, of course, notable with his victory in the British Grand Prix, perhaps one of the greatest upsets in Formula One history. His debut race, he managed to pull that feat off, and on the weekend after the 4th of July as well. But Sargent sits in 15th at the moment. Norris and Piastri in 14th and 16th. Yuki Tsunoda in 17th, and now perhaps a move being made here. Perez has overtaken Stroll, still trying to keep that position as they come into lap 3, and I believe he will. He's just got to close off the gap here, and the gap remains open, but they will go into a single file line once again, and it is Sergio Perez solidifying his position in 2nd place. Am I talking a bit fast? I'm trying to talk fast. But I won't try to break the 4th wall too much. Where was I? Yuki Tsunoda in 17th. He got into some interesting situations in Monaco, speaking of, but that's really the last time he did something notable. Zhou Guanyu with Valtteri Bottas, the 2 Alfa Romeo engines, and the 2nd AlphaTauri driver, De Vries, in 20th. Meanwhile, it's Stroll and Perez once again battling for P2, and Stroll moves down into 3rd. Perez trying to close that gap off, as he did once before. Verstappen swerves to the side, perhaps thinking about making a move, but either deciding against it or denied his chance. Now we'll go on to the next turn, and the next turn after that. And for a faint moment I saw a faraway glimpse of Charles Leclerc. He still leads the race, but we're not giving you that much coverage of him because he has jumped out to quite the lead. We prefer to bring you more competitive showcases, showdowns, whatever you want to call them, in these first 5 drivers. First 5 places. But there's Leclerc again, still managing to get through this course. His driving's a bit erratic, but I hope he's not under the influence. Verstappen in 4th, as you saw for a moment there. He's following close behind Lance Stroll. And I've just broken my streak of continuous talking. Verstappen, however, is really following Stroll. He's got Verstappen on Stroll's tail, now trying to make a move. Is he going to make the pass? He gets his chance. And he gets 3rd place. He's got to close that gap off, however, as they come into the 4th lap. And that area around the start-finish line has proven to be quite beneficial to passing attempts. There you see the first-person view of Lance Stroll. He's got Verstappen in his sights, but Verstappen has most definitely taken 3rd place away from him, at least for now. Catching up a bit on the turn, but Verstappen continuing to widen that gap, if you will. Verstappen following Perez, the 2 Red Bull teammates next to each other. Hamilton following close behind Stroll. And a good performance for the Aston Martin engine so far in this race. Again, we are in lap 4 of 11. Only 11 laps here. It's a rather short race in Belgium, but it is what it is. There you see Fernando Alonso being followed by Carlos Sainz. Sainz, the other Ferrari driver, of course, Charles Leclerc out in 1st, but it is Sainz, the other Ferrari representative, all the way back in 7th. Lewis Hamilton, you see here, following Lance Stroll closely. A very interesting story coming into this race for Hamilton. In lap 3 of the Hungarian Grand Prix last week, his engine apparently failed. He did not finish. He was just out of the race. His car stopped working, and he finished in 20th. It was a DNF, did not finish, and now he's at least made it past the 3rd lap, but he's trying for some redemption here by hoping to get on the podium or something to that effect. Of course, the last couple of seasons for Hamilton haven't really been that good. Perez and Verstappen really close here, the 2 Red Bulls. As I was saying, the last couple of seasons not very ideal for Lewis Hamilton, I don't believe, but that does not take away from his legacy at all, because if you were to refer to him by his proper title, it would be Sir Lewis Hamilton. One of the greatest drivers perhaps in Formula One history. And as I said earlier, one of the greatest drivers of the generation, most definitely, along with Max Verstappen. There you see Hamilton up close, being followed by Lance Stroll, and now a bit of a battle emerging between the two Red Bulls. It seems as though Max Verstappen has passed Sergio Perez. You see here as they come through the turn, he has closed the gap. Verstappen into second, Perez into third. And there you see Charles Leclerc. And we will go to Charles Leclerc right now, apparently, as we check up on the leader of this race. An interesting method handling that turn. He's gone to the wall, and this is what I meant earlier when I said he was driving a bit erratically, but I don't think he's under the influence because they wouldn't have let him drive. Here is Max Verstappen once again, and he has definitely widened the gap between him and Perez. Stroll and Alonso together, Hamilton in fourth, and the two Aston Martins closely following each other. Carlos Sainz following behind them. He's been in seventh place for the majority of this race. Gasly and Ocon have been together for, I believe, the whole race, and they continue to be together in 8th and 9th. George Russell, the winner in Miami, in the Miami Grand Prix at the beginning of May, he is in 10th. And there you see Hamilton speeding through the course. When you get to these first-person views, it really showcases how fast these cars truly are. They'll come across the start-finish line once again into lap 6 of 11. And although it's an odd-numbered race, you could say that this is about the halfway point. We thank you for joining us. This, as I said, is the final race before the summer break for 2023 begins for F1. We will have the Dutch Grand Prix at the end of August, August 25th, from the Circuit Zandvoort. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And that will be the return of Formula One, carrying through the second half of the season until the end of November. And a new race being added to the calendar in November. That is the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Formula One apparently trying to grow their brand in the United States because this is the third U.S. race on the 2023 calendar. There was the Miami Grand Prix, which George Russell won, as I mentioned earlier. That happened at the beginning of May. Kentucky Derby weekend, I believe it was. It's the United States Grand Prix, which will be in the fall sometime. I believe it's in October. And then the Las Vegas Grand Prix, which is the second to final race of the season. Those last two races happening after the summer break, of course, in the second half of the season. And just like that, I'm talking about schedules, but Charles Leclerc has lost his lead. Max Verstappen has taken the lead. Sergio Perez has moved up into second with him. Leclerc made a bit of an error there, and I didn't catch it, but Charles Leclerc has indeed fallen down to the third. At least he's still on the podium. He is trying as he might to catch up with Verstappen and Perez, and he goes on the grass. He's past Perez. He's trying to pass Verstappen. He goes into Verstappen. Almost costs him, and, well, I guess he'll go into the pits. And now getting to that part of the race where the drivers will begin to pit. And Leclerc, of course, no exception. So, lap 7 has begun. And Charles Leclerc is in third. Coming out of the pits, Verstappen in second. Carlos Sainz has moved up in... Verstappen in first. Carlos Sainz second. Leclerc in third. Sainz has moved up into second, which just goes to show you what the pits can do to the leaderboard. But things will be made right again once the second round of pit stops takes place. And now a battle between Alonso and Leclerc. And Leclerc trying to keep his place. He's not handled that turn well at all. Oh, like I said, very erratic driving from Leclerc. And there you see Carlos Sainz. Max Verstappen, a wide margin of victory, or a wide margin of leadership, I should say. He hasn't taken the victory yet. Although in the counterparts of this race, he very well may be. An impressive streak for Verstappen in the non-digital realm. but here on the network, our winning drivers have been a bit more diverse. Alonso, you see there, Fernando Alonso, chasing Charles Leclerc, but Leclerc has built up a considerable gap between the two. And we will go to Leclerc's first-person view for, I believe, the first time in this race. Speeding through the track is Leclerc. Like I said, when you see them going around these turns and you see it from the first-person view, it really puts it into perspective just how fast these cars really are. Carlos Sainz going in the pits. Leclerc will take advantage. I believe Verstappen's pitted as well, and with that, Charles Leclerc will regain his lead in the race that he lost before he pitted. Remember that error that was made a couple laps ago, which allowed the two Red Bulls to overtake him. But Leclerc has regained his lead. And there you see Fernando Alonso in second. Moving through this course, we'll take a look at the first-person view. So this is what it's like to be an F1 driver. Of course, I would have no experience in that sort of thing, but I prefer to just commentate. Perez and Hamilton getting in a bit of a battle. They've got George Russell behind them, and George Russell was formerly in 10th. He's now moved up to 5th. And like I said, it just goes to show you what the pits can do to the leaderboard. In fact, George Russell's win in Miami was pretty much decided by the pits, and it seems as though if Leclerc wins, that when you think about it, the victory has been decided by the pits. If Leclerc can keep the lead for the next 3 laps and bring it home to win the Belgian Grand Prix, but there's always a chance that he could lose that lead like he did a few minutes ago. There you see Fernando Alonso in second, Lewis Hamilton in third. I mentioned earlier Hamilton trying to get on the podium after what happened last week in Hungary. The engine failure, a heartbreaking way to go out in a race, in any race. As they come to the straightaway now. Again, we are so glad to have you with us for this as our coverage of Formula One continues. There's George Russell. Sergio Perez is in front of him, but Russell is so close behind, almost just rear-ending him here. And that'll lead us into lap 9 of 11. 2 laps to go after this one. Charles Leclerc with the lead, and it seems as though he is going to bring it home because you can't see him. He's way past turn 1. And I'm not sure where he is. There's, then again, we are focusing on the 5th place driver, George Russell. Now we've moved on to Sergio Perez. The driver that is highlighted in white on the leaderboard is the driver that our focus is on at the moment. And therefore it is Perez. We'll go down the leaderboard once again. Leclerc in first, Alonso in second, Hamilton you see there in third, Sergio Perez in fourth. He's separating the 2 Red Bulls, George Russell in fifth. The other Aston Martin driver, Stroll, formerly in second, now is in sixth. Alonso is taking his place in P2. Gasly and Ocon still together in 7th and 8th. They've been together for most, if not all, of this race. Maybe those who are paying attention to the leaderboard more than I am can tell you whether or not they have been together for the whole race. Alexander Albon has moved into the points, as well as Lando Norris. They're in 9th and 10th, respectively. Max Verstappen, surprisingly, is in 11th, and I'm not entirely sure how that happened, as we see Lewis Hamilton here speeding through the course. Nico Hülkenberg in 12th. Carlos Sainz in 13th, which is quite interesting considering that his teammate is leading the race. Kevin Magnussen in 14th, Valtteri Bottas in 15th, Logan Sargent, surprise winner of the British Grand Prix. No matter what he does in his life, he will always have that attached to him, that accomplishment. Verstappen moves into the points, and he's battling with Lando Norris at the moment. Valtteri Bottas in 15th, Sargent in 16th, Guan Yu Zhou in 17th, Yuki Tsunoda in 18th, Oscar Piastri in 19th, separated from his teammate Norris by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 drivers, and Nick de Vries in last. 20th place for the AlphaTauri teammate of Yuki Tsunoda. But there is Lewis Hamilton And just for Hamilton to get on the podium would be a bit of vengeance for what happened last week, but imagine if he were to win it. And this race very well may come down to the last few turns if Hamilton can catch up to Leclerc. He's got Alonso following close behind, though. He may have to worry about Alonso more than he worries about Leclerc. And I'm not even sure where in the course Leclerc is right now. There he is, just as I say that. So there is a sizable gap between the two, but that doesn't mean that Hamilton can't catch up. Remember, never say never. The motto here on the network is anything can happen. And absolutely anything can happen. And I've been talking about Hamilton's engine failure, but one thing I've neglected to mention in this race is something that Verstappen may well have been hoping for revenge on as well, but he's in 10th right now. That is his last lap engine failure at the end of last week's race. I apologize if there are muted points and gaps of silence. My throat's starting to feel a bit sore, but that's what happens when you commentate something as exciting as this. They will come to lap 11, but as I was saying, Verstappen wiping out. Amazing, well, not amazing, depressing would be a better word. Unbelievable, more neutral. Unbelievable crash in the last lap. He spun out. He finished, I believe, in 7th or 8th, but he was in 1st going into lap 18, and it looked like he was going to win, but it was not so. And meanwhile, there's Perez and Russell. Wait a minute. Russell's making his move, trying to make his move. And they'll come around the turn. We'll see him again, this battle. Russell into 4th, Perez into 5th. And the final few turns remain for Charles Leclerc. Of course, he could always pull Verstappen. Do the same thing that Max did last week. But with every turn, it seems more unlikely. Hamilton in 2nd. I don't believe Lance Stroll will pass him. He won't if Hamilton can hold on. And coming in the final few turns here, it is all Charles Leclerc. No one's going to catch up to him unless he makes a mistake. This race is his. He's hit the wall, but he's fine. He's just got to hold on. Remember, I told you he was driving a bit weird today, a bit erratic. There's Hamilton. But Leclerc with a very, very, very wide gap. Alonso following close behind. Hamilton, Russell in 4th, Perez in 5th, but there is Charles Leclerc. And Leclerc looks like he's going to pull it off through the last couple of turns and across the finish line. Ladies and gentlemen, the winner of the Belgian Grand Prix is number 16, the Ferrari driver, Charles Leclerc. And so it is victory for Ferrari and victory for Charles Leclerc in the last race before the summer break. He exits his car the victor in the Belgian Grand Prix to the applause of the crowd. Well, we'll see you in a month. We will after the podium ceremony. And we hope you join us for the Dutch Grand Prix. Hopefully the return of Matilda Wallace. She was not here today, but we hope to have her back for the Dutch Grand Prix. For now, we bid you farewell. Standing tall is Charles Leclerc, Hamilton in 2nd, Alonso in 3rd. Good night, everyone.